Welcome to Leaders Lead Podcast. Are you ready to conquer your challenges and achieve greatness? Join us as we dive into inspirational stories of industry leaders who have overcome adversity and reached new heights. Get ready for electrifying insights and captivating conversations that will ignite your passions for success. This is your go-to show for empowerment, growth, and leadership. Buckle up. Leaders Lead Podcast is here to take you on a transformational ride.
We'll jump back into your episode in a minute, but first let me ask you something. Are you great at what you do, but it still feels like no one really sees you as the go-to expert in your space? You're showing up, maybe putting out content, speaking on a few podcasts, but the visibility, the growth, the income, it still feels out of reach. That's exactly why I created the Experts Blueprint. It's a step-by-step system that I use to help coaches, consultants, and purpose-driven experts finally get visible, grow your loyal audience, and turn their message into income. Inside, I'll show you how to craft your story so people actually remember it, build a platform that works for you 24/7, and create content that builds trust and moves people into action. If you're ready to stop being overlooked and start getting the recognition, the results that you deserve, join the waitlist by emailing me at info@tonytaylorinspires.com. Let's build something real. Let's get you seen. Welcome back to your episode.
Welcome back to Leaders Lead the Podcast. I am super excited. Today's guest is someone who's been showing up for students, family, and in her community for decades, not with words, but with action. In my community, Melissa Beard has worked in the public sector for over 25 years, served on the Tumwater School Board since 2016, and continues to fight for equity and access for all students. She's a lifelong learner with degrees from the University of Washington and Stanford, and now teaches grad students at the Evergreen State University, or Evergreen State College. Sorry, I went to that school and I'm butchering it. She's also led annual civic education conferences for high school students. I want to learn about that because she believes leadership starts with understanding how systems work. She's currently running for re-election to the school board and doing it with heart, courage, and an unshakable belief in the power of public education. But beyond the titles, Melissa is a leader who shows up, and today we get to hear her story. Melissa, welcome to Leaders Lead. I am so excited to have you on the show finally.
Well, thank you, Tony. We've been talking about this for a couple of years, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I know. I was so fired up. I was in. I'll tell the listeners, the viewers. I was so fired up. I was in a class. It was grant writing, and Melissa was actually my teacher for my grant writing class at Evergreen. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, dude, there's something different. There's something different about her than the other teachers. And I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Please, everybody, don't try to come at me again. But in my opinion, there's a lot of these teachers, they're teaching because they don't know what they're doing. So they're not out there doing, but Melissa is a doer. And I saw that immediately. Did I get that right? Or was that wrong? I shouldn't have said that, huh, Melissa?
Well, I wrote grants. Yes. And I think my background in K-12 taught me, which is a little different in college, but it has worked for me, as you meet the student where they are. That's what K-12 has to do. And so I've just kind of brought that into my teaching at Evergreen, which allows for that for sure. Right. And so it's a lot of individualized learning at Evergreen. And so it frees me up as an instructor to say, all right, where's Tony coming from? Where does he want to go? I'm going to help him get there. So that's what I love about teaching is that type of work.
Yeah, I thought it was so dope because when I went back to Evergreen, my sole focus was to take, right? Was to take everything that I can take and add it to my business. So now it's like when it's time to do some grant writing, all I got to do is, pull up the stuff that I learned from you, which in my opinion, freaking, I didn't pay enough for it. That was some top level stuff right there. But I'm, aside from grant writing, aside from Evergreen, I was really, really inspired by you. And when you reached out, I was like, oh man, this is amazing. This is great because I had just read a post. Somebody was saying that you were one of the only people that were fighting for the rights of not just trans kids, but it seems like trans kids are being targeted in this new bill. But you were probably the only person that stood up for them. And I want to know more about that. Like what was going on during that time?
What was going on about that time, the reason that this came up. So it was a resolution that a fellow board member wanted to bring up. And WIAA, which is in charge of high school athletics or high school and middle school athletics here in the state, some school boards had proposed a change to their rules about allowing transgender females to compete. They want right now, state law says they compete with the gender they identify as. Mm. So a transgender female would compete on a girls' team, and there were some school districts who wanted to change that would not allow transgender females to compete on a girls' team. And that girls' teams would be based on your biological sex. And so I had a fellow school board member who wanted to pass a resolution, which is what you do at the school board level, and he wanted to direct staff to support those changes. Mm. All sorts of interesting, things that we can dialogue about the particular resolution. But the fact was, when I heard that, is whether we have control over that change or not, the communication to our transgender students in our community was, like they would hear this. It might be a technical thing and, it might be technical, this particular resolution. But I was concerned that transgender students would hear this and feel that the board didn't support their right to be a student with us. And I guess maybe I grew up in Tumwater. I was always that kiddo that was kind of on the outside. And so I just have this, I know that feeling of being left out, and I know that feeling of not being seen or not feeling that people are paying attention. And so that just kind of gets at my heart. So that's always where I'm going to defer to. If something is going to make someone feel left out, I'm going to question it. So I will say I was not the only one that was against this resolution. Our student representatives were also against this. They don't get to vote, but they were quite vociferous in how they felt about this resolution. So I had I think the thing that made it hard, like I knew what I believed, but I also know what it takes to work as part of a team. Usually I work really hard with any team I'm on to figure out where can we find some agreement, and where can we have a conversation about this. And so I tried to do that before the meeting to try to figure out where can we find some agreement. And then when it came to the meeting, I just realized, oh gosh, I'm going to be the only one. I already knew I was going to lose the vote. Like I already knew that going into it. And I need to make sure that these students know that somebody cares about them. So my comments were more about following state and federal laws. And that message was for my fellow school board members. Like, it doesn't matter how you feel about this particular issue. There are state and federal laws we took an oath to uphold. Right. That was 3/4 of what I was saying, was just all these things that kind of says, regardless of how you feel about it, we got to follow state and federal laws. And the last part, which was the most important part, was I was really concerned about the message that this resolution would send to our community. One, maybe some people don't believe we have transgender students in our community, which we do, or that just because we don't have any transgender students who are competing in athletics, that we probably have some who want to compete in athletics. Like just, the honoring of a fellow human being, I thought, that was my biggest concern. And since then, like, it's funny, I didn't know, like, I just did that. I was like, I just need to be, if I'm going to be the only voice, then I'm going to be the only voice. I also have a daughter who keeps me in check, on these issues. She was the first person I called to help me think through how I communicate. She grew up with transgender friends. I learned early on about pronouns. I learned a lot. I learn every day being her mother. But I learned a lot about this particular issue. And in the end, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I understand it or not. It doesn't matter if people understand it or not. It's just that they're another human being.
Yes.
And I wanted to honor that. And that's what I want us to get back to, is just remembering that these are human beings that we're talking about, whether you understand what's going on or not. I also thought back to, I have some friends, so I graduated in the early 90s. I won't say exactly what year. I graduated in the early 90s. And when I was in high school, I didn't have any friends that were gay or lesbians. But turns out now that they've come out since then, right? And that they were gay in high school, and they did not feel comfortable coming out.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think back to that time, and now this is a different time. And there are kids who can come out now, and they are accepted. They feel more comfortable doing that. When I graduated, less than 40 years ago, people were not comfortable coming out. So I think every generation is tasked with being accepting of a new group. Every generation has a new group that they are tasked with figuring out how to create a sense of belonging for them. Wow. And I think, right? And for me, what I've noticed is always the students that are more accepting. These are their friends. These are the people they've grown up with, and it doesn't matter to them. And they usually model for us how we're supposed to handle the situation. In this case, my daughter and her friends, and just great conversations about pronouns, about what does it matter what the pronoun is. And it's kind of fun to try to task myself with not using pronouns, not making any assumptions. Because no one wants to, the other thing is, I'm biracial. No one ever knows, what my background is. And I do sometimes get a little bit annoyed when someone asks me where I'm from. And I say Tumwater, cause I'm a dingling.
You say I'm from Tumwater. Yeah.
Where are you really from? And then I get what they're asking, right?
Yeah.
Or they make us, I'm half Filipino and half white, but it's just assumed. People start talking Spanish to me because they assume that I'm Hispanic, or, they just make assumptions, and I don't get upset about it, but it's just interesting how people make assumptions.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yes. That's one way to do it. Yeah. So only fellow Filipinos recognize me as Filipino, but people who don't know will just make assumptions. And I've just learned early on, I just try really hard not to make assumptions about anyone. Yeah. Kind of like it goes into the teaching, like we were talking about at the beginning. Like I don't want to make assumptions about what anyone is here for, or what they need, or where they're starting from. Like, let me get to know you, and then let's figure out what you want to learn, figure out how you want me to refer to you, how, whatever that is. It's kind of the fun part about life, actually.
Yeah.
getting to know people.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to make assumptions? Why wouldn't you want to take the time to get to know them? If I could get a job where I just got to know people, like that would be right exactly where I wanted to be. I kind of do that now. I get to know people and advocate for higher ed, but that's for me the fun part, just getting to know people and figure out what makes them tick. Even if they disagree with me, I enjoy meeting people. And if I find, that I've met with a lot of people who disagree with me on this particular issue because they will email us and tell me that they agree with the resolution that got passed. And I said, well, let's go for it.
So it actually got passed.
It got passed. Yeah. So that night, it got passed by a vote of 3-1. The fifth person abstained from the vote.
What is that?
What?
Sorry. What does that mean? They abstained?
They didn't vote yes or no. They just didn't vote.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I think there was, I think the resolution passed, which the resolution says staff will support those amendments, to the WIA rule changes. And that was and that night, there were a lot of transgender supporters in our audience, and they started, not really protesting. How do you protest, a meeting that is basically over? But they were sharing their grief for sure.
Wow.
That vote really surprised them. And, since then, we've had a lot of people who are trying to communicate with the board their displeasure with that particular vote.
Wow. Wow. I would imagine that some of the things that you're hearing, maybe some of the emails from the students, student body, teachers, I would imagine that they feel hurt. I would feel very hurt if I was a part. I was going to say if I was a part of that community, but I am, because they're a part of our community, and the way that it sounds like to me is almost like they got a slap in the face. Are you hearing that from them?
Yes, they are really angry, which, means that they're sad and disappointed. They are reaching out. They're emailing me and thanking me for my support. And then, in the same email, admonishing, the other board members. I do want to, because one of the things is understanding what the other side is.
Mhm.
And I'm getting emails from the other side, and they have great concern for the girls on these sports teams, and them having to compete with or against transgender females. And I understand where they're coming from. Like I said, I've taken the time to talk with a lot of them. We go on walks, and I hear their concerns about the safety, and that I have to believe that there's a way to solve this, issue. Because all the research shows participating in extracurricular activities, helps students.
Right.
And why would that be limited to, why would that exclude transgender students from participating on the team in which they identify?
Wait, so they can't participate on no teams? Is that how this is the impact of this?
No. So right now, state law says they would participate on the team in which they identify. The ban would have said transgender females. So transgender females were born males. They would not be able to compete on a girls' team. So they would be competing on a boys' team, more than likely.
Okay.
And then, but transgender males, so born biologically female, would get to still participate on a boys team.
Okay.
It's really just about the transgender females.
Oh man. Yeah, I can't imagine how they must feel. And if I was in that situation, the way that I would be looking at it is, okay, I guess I just can't play sports.
Right. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I know if I didn't have sports growing up, I mean, I don't know what the hell I would have did. I mean, sports was everything to me growing up.
Well, and sports teaches a lot of life skills, that you may not, you may not play that sport again. You may not, there's so many kids who don't go off to college to play that sport,
Mhm.
but you can play on a rec team. I never played soccer in high school, but I played on the legislative soccer team for fun. Like you just learn, you learn that just those direct skills, but the life skills of being part of a team, supporting people, like just mental toughness if you're not having a good game,
Yeah. Yeah.
and learning how to practice. Like there's all these things that you learn from being part of a team.
Yeah.
And that I don't want anyone I don't want anyone excluded from who wants to be a part of a team.
Wow. And when you thanks for saying that's beautifully said. When you took a stand, it sounds like you didn't even realize that you were taking a stand, that you're going to be a minority on this thing.
Well, I knew going in how the other people felt about it. I really believe I went in believing that if we could focus on what our oath was, that that regardless of how we felt about it personally, that people would vote based on the laws of the state and the federal government. Because that would in my speech I talk about, like, let's just figure this out. Like, the oath says we have to follow state and federal laws. I don't know what the answer is, but let's not pass this resolution and let's take time to figure out what that answer is. Let's talk to students, right? I'm a huge proponent of student voice because of the way that they look at things. I'm
Well, that's who y'all are representing, right?
correct. Yes, right. And again, remember, like, they're usually a bit ahead of us adults on this type of thinking. So I always like to hear from them. When I started on the board, we had two student reps, one from Black Hills, one from Tumwater. And since I've been on the board, we added one from our alternative high school, Cascadia. And then they also have, there's another one from each school, just in case that one who's been chosen is not able to attend. So now we have 6 students paying attention to what the board is doing and giving us input. And it's, I love it. I love hearing from them, but I also love them getting to practice participating in this opportunity, so they can learn that they have a voice, and learn how to use it. Like, that's, I always felt like no one wanted to listen to me when I was a kid. And that was really frustrating because I had opinions when I was a kid. So I just like to give kids that opportunity to share with us what they're seeing and thinking.
I think that is incredible. I would imagine for you personally, you can speak on this if you want, but I would imagine that leading in this capacity, leading, like kind of like as the opposition, which shouldn't. I don't even know why anybody would be opposed to doing the right thing for kids. I would imagine that there's some sort of impact to you personally. I would only imagine. And am I getting that right?
I prioritize the organization and team above usually my own voice in most situations, because, like, I can figure out how to work with this. Like, it's like how, for us to keep moving forward in the past, I would have found a way to not speak up so then I can say, all right, like, I'm not going to be controversial. I'm just like, all right, if I know I'm going to lose anyway, I'm going to let you guys take this one. That way we can still work together. And so that I also knew a lot of the community supports the idea of transgender females not participating on girls' teams. So I was thinking about that. And before I went out and said all of that at the February 27th meeting, I really had to say, like, you could lose your school board seat because I'm up for re-election. You could lose your seat over this speech. And are you prepared to do that? And it did not, I asked myself just so I could say I am prepared to do that. But like the speech was already written, right? Like I did. I've had to make lots of decisions over the years, and I've learned that every decision I've made because of what someone else is going to think about me, and it turns out wrong, I am mad at myself for getting caught up in that, and that I'm disappointed in myself. Now, if I make it the wrong decision and it's done with my heart and with what information I had, and I make the wrong decision, all right, I'll take responsibility for it. And it's like, all right, we'll keep going. I did what I believed was right at the time. But every time, and I've made a lot of decisions where it's like, all right, I'm going to do it because this person's going to be mad at me if I don't, or this or that. And that is not defendable for me. Like, that's just embarrassing. So in this case, like, no, I can't have students believing that me, myself, don't support them, our transgender community. And regardless of what I lose in this, like, this is the right decision. But you always got to ask yourself before you do it. Like, all right, Melissa, this may happen, and you need to go in eyes wide open. And yeah, my speech was already written. It was like maybe an hour before the meeting. It's like, yeah, I'm doing it. So
you didn't lose your seat, right?
Well, we'll find out in November. So, yeah, I'm up for election now. We'll find out what the community thinks. But frankly, this is part of the government process. I truly believe in the process. Like, I believe in elections. And if they don't, I'm going to work to stay in my seat, but the community doesn't agree with my beliefs, which is we should be fighting for all students. We should be making sure everyone has the same opportunities.
And that's what it's about. And that's what it's about. It's not just like, this is what it sounds like to me. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's what I'm getting from you. It's not like it's okay, this is just for trans students. This sounds like it's something for all students.
It's for all. Yeah. Originally, one of the reasons I'm on the board, so I am the quintessential, the system works for me. I went to UW and Stanford. Like, obviously, the education system works for me. I'm that type of kid. My kiddo, though, is not that type of kid. And I learned so much about how the system does not work for her. And I learned that from her. I also learned that talking with people I graduated with, like, years later. We'd connect and we would just talk about our experiences. And they said, oh yeah, no one ever asked me to come into the Career Center to talk about college. No one, asked me if I want to apply for scholarships. I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, that's all I was doing was, and I realized at that point, like, that doesn't seem right to me, that not everyone would get asked. Regardless, like, you shouldn't just look at someone and assume what it is they want to do in their future. And so that's what I mean by, like, everyone should have the same opportunity. Now, there are reasons, right? Schools are not funded the way they need to be funded. There's, all of this stuff. And that's part of why I wanted to serve on the board. It's like, how do we create a system that makes sure all students get what they need? But that's what I mean in terms of when you said, is it just this? The reason this whole decision was easy was it's just a part of who I am. Like everyone should have the opportunity. People shouldn't be left out. Like just, like I said, going through Tumwater schools and understanding what could happen. Like this was just right in line with what I believe anyway, which kind of is what made it easy. So, the idea that I do believe that we can build a system that all students can get what they need from our system and go off to do whatever it is they want to do. My kiddo lives in LA because she wants to, right? And we've got kiddos who stayed here because they want to. Like, I want kids to be prepared to do whatever it is they want to do because they want to, not because they don't feel prepared to do so. But that's, I guess, maybe why it was simple. I don't know why it was so simple, why I knew the answer right away. I didn't even have to think about it. But I guess it's just in line with, I grew up in Tumwater. I feel a part of Tumwater. I want everyone to have that same feeling that their community supports them. Like I felt my community supported me. And I realized talking with people, not everyone feels that way. And that makes me sad.
Yeah.
And not just, just people who moved into the community don't feel like a part of the community. Right.
Right.
And how can we build a system for everyone to feel like we've got them.
Right. Wow. I'm curious. I love this conversation, by the way. I thank you for being here. I want to tell you that again.
You're looking up that post and you had said something like thank you or whatever. And so that's kind of what started this, that's what kind of, we talked about it during class, but just this whole thing, it's like, oh yeah, this would be a great opportunity to talk through this.
Yeah. Because because to be honest, I don't feel like, and I could be wrong here, but I don't feel like I see a lot of people on boards or in office, like really being vocal for people that need support. I don't see it. I don't see it. I see people taking the easy route. I'm not going to call anybody out, but I see it. I live here in Lacey and I see it, and it burns my ass. I hate it. And when I saw that you were taking that stance, I was like, damn, I know her. I'm proud of that. I love that. That is something that I can get behind 100%, because people that take care of people and that support people, those people in my eyes are leaders. So I'm curious, what's your story? How did you get here? How did you get to this point? I know I read your bio, but who is Melissa?
So, I don't know how much of it was like just manufactured in my head or how much of it is me. But like I've just been told my whole entire life that I'm a leader. I'm the oldest of my family, so that some of it in the Filipino Hawaiian tradition, the oldest you get a lot of deference for being the oldest. So I'm the oldest cousin, which when you're little means you've got to keep all the little ones quiet whenever when the adults want to go and do their thing. Like you're the one that gets tasked with making sure all the little ones are taken care of. But so I'm the oldest of three girls. My next youngest sister, she lives in Switzerland. She has
cool.
three boys. Yeah. She's a fierce advocate of mine. She thinks I should, well, actually, she doesn't think I should. She thinks I should be exactly who I am. But when she sees me being wronged, she speaks out. So she's that. And then, we had a younger sister who was born when I was in the first grade, but she was born with a kidney disease.
Oh.
And, she died when I was in middle school, and she was 7. So that was pretty influential in terms of just accepting, one, accepting things for what they are, but two, really showing people how I care about them when I care about them. And, I just want people, my sister, my young sister, she went to Peter G. Schmidt, and I, I think through first grade, and she passed away, then, she was just a very accepting, loving person. Like everyone felt love from her. And I just believe that I'm still on this earth because there are other things that I've got to do, and I get to do them. She doesn't get to do those things. So trying to share that loving feeling that I got from her, with other people is part of, like, I still get to do that. So why wouldn't I do that? But yeah, it was a lot of, it's accepting things for what they are, but also just appreciating things. So I tend to look at the positive in a lot of things. She was, my sister, her name was Lorianne. She wasn't supposed to make it past 6 months, and we had her for 7 years.
Wow.
And
But she had a purpose too.
yeah, exactly. She did. That's exactly what I believe. Everything happens for a reason, and we get taught lessons. At that young age, I learned that I couldn't control everything, because I really believe that I could control a lot of stuff. Right? I'm a leader. I tell people what to do, and they do it. Like I really. But at that time, I learned early on that building relationship is important, and to appreciate it. I appreciated every moment I had with her, and then we didn't. And going through that in middle school, I also learned how important the school system is. Like, I didn't miss a beat. I don't even remember. Like, there was a lot of stuff we were going through at the time, but did not feel any stress about it. There's somebody somewhere in, at school taking care of stuff, right? Because I was just kind of going along. My sister also, and I see students now going through trauma, and our staff are dealing with that, like that. The support that our staff give for kids going through trauma. And at the time, I didn't know it was trauma or all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It was just life for me. But I realize now that was very traumatic, and someone was looking out for us to make sure that we could keep going. And I wanted to give back to that system. Not as a teacher. Like I can teach college students. I don't, I came back from Stanford and worked at a Black Lake Elementary as a paraeducator. I have never been more tired after a day of work than after working with first and second graders. And I was a para for 6.5 hours a day, and I'd come home exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But I also learned how brilliant kids are. First and second graders could understand these very, very, they're not difficult concepts. It's just about how you treat one another, and, and how you shouldn't pick on people, and, and we could have some really good conversations about why they treated someone that way. And they could tell me exactly why. Well, they took my crayon earlier in the day, right? And it's like, well, let's just talk that through. And they could talk it through. That was before I became a parent. So I was really glad to have had that experience about what kids are capable of doing at a young age, especially with their emotional intelligence and how to treat people. So I have enough teachers in my family to know I don't have the patience to be a teacher. So,
well, you're so good at it.
Adults.
Adults.
Right? And I only have like 12 people, right? So, but I'm also I'm creative, but not like I also joke, like, I don't know how to make good bulletin boards. Like the best teachers, I think, have the best bulletin boards, really engaging classroom and all of that stuff. But, I went to school. I thought I was going to be an education researcher. I thought that's how I was going to give back to the education field. And then, I went and got my doctorate and was, working with education data. And then the school board position came up. And I applied for it and, just thought like, this is how I can give back to the community. Again, I have such love for Tumwater. This is how I can give back to the community, is by being on the school board and just learn about how it works from this standpoint.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up. I was doing some research. I don't know if it's research or stalking, but I was kind of looking through your website and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that you had your PhD. That is incredible. Usually when folks come on my show, if they have their PhD, when they write in their name, they make sure that they put it. I don't see that nowhere on social media. I don't see it nowhere. Like Harley, what it was that a decision? And I don't. There's no right or wrong answer, because to be completely honest, if that was me, hey, no, man, you call me Dr. Tony Taylor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's interesting. It kind of depends. What I never want is, sometimes when someone sees the PhD or the doctor, like sometimes a wall goes up, and I don't think that would be with you, but sometimes a wall goes up, making assumptions about the type of person that I am. I did it because I'm a big nerd, and it was something from a young age that I thought I would do. And I just, like, when I had the opportunity, I went and did it. And, but yeah, it depends. At work, yes, I have Melissa Beard, PhD.
I don't blame you for that. Yeah.
When I have to testify in front of the legislature, it says Dr. Melissa Beard. Yes.
Oh, hell yeah. I give you a little streak it. Have you noticed that, because we got a lot of folks that listen and watch the show that are, in their pursuit to whether building their own companies or rise into the ranks in their companies, the companies that they work with. Have you noticed that it's help you leverage more things that you wouldn't have been able to get before?
So I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Dr. Sarah Lloyd? She's in town here. She's a leader in town here. She has taken me to task for not saying Dr. Melissa Beard. And I had to think about why I don't do that. And I realized, for many years, I felt that by making myself smaller, I made other people more comfortable.
Okay.
And so I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it, because I don't want people to feel uncomfortable, because I like to make people feel comfortable so they can, so we can talk and engage. So I'm trying to get better about it. Dr. Sarah Lloyd will be upset. No, she won't be upset, but she will, if she hears this, then she'll probably send me a message. And so that's my journey of, like, I'm very, like, I did that because it was something I wanted to do. I started running marathons because it was something I wanted to do and achieve. And it was for me. I don't want people to feel, any particular way about it. But for me, what it has taught me, so writing a dissertation is like running a marathon. Like, there are all these little checkpoints along the way, and it's not that it's not impossible to finish, but, like, I'm a tasky person. Like, all right, marathon. All right, mile 1, mile 2, mile 3. Dissertation. All right, the introduction. Then you got to run the data, and I just went through, and I'm just persistent. and stubborn. Like some would say I'm stubborn, and that's how you finish a dissertation. It's just you're really stubborn and you don't want to give up. I think that's what it has taught me. Like if I want to do something, I know I can, like, you just start putting the tasks out there and you just start doing it. Like that's how you do things. So what has helped me with things. I think what it communicates to other people, like going to University of Washington, going to Stanford, communicates to people that I'm willing to work hard, and I'm willing to and I can figure out how things work.
Yeah.
And so I think that is helpful, that it for better or for worse, which I struggle with this too, because there are people who have no degrees that are brilliant people. And that's maybe more of my struggle, is that there are much smarter people than me that don't have a doctor in front of their name. And that is probably what I struggle with, is that some people will think, that the person who doesn't have something to contribute. And I also, frankly, I also like to surprise people. Like,
The sneak attack.
exactly. Yes, I do. And yes, I did. I did achieve these things, and you shouldn't make assumptions about people.
Right.
Right. So taking people at face value, regardless of what letters they have after their name. I'm usually looking for someone's heart and passion, and you can get that through all sorts of ways.
That's true leadership. That is, to me, that is true leadership. And I appreciate you for being so vulnerable and saying that. I recognize that in so many people, especially even myself, where we shrink ourselves to make other people feel good. And I see it. I see it in so many different people. But yeah, what would you say? What would you say is, like, your journey in leadership was one of the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome? Whether it's your personal stuff that you had to get through, like yourself,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you mine. Like, for example, with me, I've always had this a severe case of anxiety, like even from a kid. So it 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 didn't do me any good having a fear or many fears, because I would public speaking, driving on the highway, communication with people in general, just being seen was really hard for me, and I had to work my ass off to overcome that. And I was just curious, because I'll be honest, I look at you as kind of like Superwoman. I don't see any flaws.
So nice. I think because like I went through school easily, and I have a perfectionism problem, and overcoming that, like thinking when I get something wrong, that, oh my gosh, everyone thinks I'm dumb, or maybe not even starting something because I don't know what the right answer is. I think that's the other thing that I love about these times now, is it's more about education is more about critical thinking than necessarily getting the right answer. I mean, in some cases there is a right answer, but teaching students that, to think through an issue, and how to do that. So kind of overcoming that. I still deal with that every day. Like getting started on something is really difficult for me. And then kind of playing into that, what really switched for me is when I started focusing on my strengths, and there are things that I'm not good at, and not that I can't get better at it, but like not feeling like a failure because I'm not good at everything.
Right.
Right. And so it's like, all right, my strengths are in connecting people. My strengths are in building relationships. My strengths are in, doing research and So I realized like that's what I should be doing more of is, those things. And then that brings me joy that I'm, focusing on that. And so that's the other thing I want I don't know that our education system does the best job at helping students focus on their strengths. And it's okay if calculus is difficult, like you can do it, but it's okay, like it's okay to struggle.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, like everything came really easy. And so when it came time to struggle a little bit, I was like, oh, I'm not good at that.
What's this?
I'm a failure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So all that research about grit and all of that, I love, because that's exactly, I don't want kids to think, okay, I'm not good at it, so I'm just not even going to try. It's like, no, it's okay not to be good at something, and it's okay to work at it. But also, if you, in the work life, like focusing on your strengths is what makes the world a better place. If everyone just focused on their strengths and did the thing, I still struggle, oh, I should have known that answer. Like when someone else on the team says something, so, oh, I should have known that. It's easy because it's so interesting because at Evergreen, when I'm teaching, like I'm totally okay when someone, when a student has more experience than me and they bring it, I was like, yes, great. But for whatever reason, when I'm on a team and it feels like I should know it, then I just feel like, oh gosh, I should have known that. I should have brought that up. So that's what I still kind of struggle with. And knowing, and also remember, like, no one really cares or thinks about whether you should know that or not, Melissa.
Right. No, I love that you said that, to focus on your strengths. I feel like a lot of times when we get started on something, we have a dream, whatever it is, entrepreneurship, working, education, we think about the stuff that we need to get ready for, the stuff that we need to learn, instead of, okay, I'm really good at this. Let me go down this path. Like me, math. If my kids was to come in here right now and they're like, I need help with my math homework, I'm like, I'm going to start sweating bullets. Right. But I know enough now to be like, hey, I'm not the right dude for you. I'm not the right dude. And you know what? If your teacher thinks I'm dumb because because I couldn't help you, because that was something, that I was worried about too. I was thinking about this when you were talking, oh, this is some things that I'm supposed to know. Right. Mm-hmm. And the same thing for me when I remember being in the fire department and realizing that there weren't some things that I didn't know, but not having good leadership, or not feeling like my leadership would be open to me saying, hey, I don't know how to do this. So what did I do? I kept going, ignorant and not knowing how to do it. But then when it was time for me to do it, they're like, how come you don't know how to do it? And I'm just like, well, I didn't feel comfortable enough for asking. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. And I hope that the listeners and the viewers, that they'll take that from you, to focus on those strengths, to acknowledge some of the weaknesses, so that we're not hung up on what I like to call, well, I stole this from somebody, but the analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis. I see that in a lot of brilliant people. They're like, well, I just can't do X, Y, Z. And I'm just like, damn, but you're so brilliant at ABC. Why are you worried about Z? You're so good. You know what I mean?
Well, and when you're talking about working for the fire department, the other thing that I learned, I've been lucky enough to work for people who I felt comfortable saying, I don't know. One way, I started getting out of my perfectionism is I worked for a state superintendent with Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, and I finally learned I would spend like 48 hours straight awake. Is when I started drinking coffee, trying to make the most perfect presentation, and every time I went in there, it was wrong. It was not what she wanted, and I finally learned, like, I need to let go of this right? Because it was what I thought was right, but I was
You're speaking to my soul.
right. So now,
Yeah.
so then I was like, all right, I'm just gonna throw some stuff together because she couldn't exactly tell me what she wanted, and I didn't quite know, so I would just throw some stuff together, and then I just like whatever sticks, and if it doesn't, like it's like I kind of took myself out of it. But I had a boss at the time who let me do that and, didn't expect it to be perfect. And, I realized I need to work for someone who lets me ask, they're not dumb, no questions are dumb, but what I thought were dumb questions, because sometimes those were stopping me from starting things. Right. And
Mhm.
so I just look for bosses that allow me to do that. And if they don't allow me to do that, I'm out pretty quickly, like, because I'm not my best self. Right. So I just need basically it's someone that I trust to
Yeah.
work for. And I don't know, definitely I didn't think I had that choice when I was younger. But I just learned the type of person I work for, as time goes on. And I think understanding the type of person that you are, but also understanding the type of person you work with or for is helpful as you go through this journey in life too.
Heck yeah. And I think we should, yeah. And it sucks for the people that don't work for those type of leaders and can't go to them and ask them questions, and that it's not that type of environment. So yeah, I'm glad that you spoke to that. We mentioned this before. You're currently running for re-election. What made you decide to run again?
That was another question I had to ask myself. There's still more work. I believe there's still more work to do in Tumwater that I can contribute to. We are on the verge of adopting a new strategic plan, and I really think the direction that we're heading into as a district is a good one, and I think I could contribute to that. Um, and I really care about the future of Tumwater, and I really not that I'm the only one that can do it, but I really think my perspective needs to be a part of this decision making.
Yeah, what would be some goals? Like if you're elected for another term, what are some big goals you got?
I think some goals that I have is we've been expanding student voice on the board. I would love for student voice to be part of building decision making. Right. And again, it's no one turns 18 and magically knows how to be, how to make decisions. So I want to give those opportunities to students earlier. So they can, a lot of times the decision that they may think is the right one, they'll learn, like, look at it from a different point of view. Right.
Mhm.
So that's part of it. We're going, like most districts in the state are going through some issues with the budget. So I want to get that on stable foundation and really work on making sure we have the supports for our staff. The job is hard right now. And I want to make sure that we are investing in them so they can pour into our students.
Ah, that's dope. That's dope. What is something that most people don't know about you?
I think people are usually surprised when they find out I'm an introvert.
Oh, me too.
I shared already. Like I've run I think 14 marathons. And
14?
yeah, and I've run the marathon in Athens, so I got to start. The original course. It's got to start in marathon and finish in the Olympic Stadium in Athens, Greece. So that was mind blowing and crazy. to do that. I've also run like marathons in Paris and, that type of thing. I look at those as a mom. I had my training partner, also a mom, like that was uninterrupted talking time, our training runs. And so it was like, right. So it's long training runs. Like who wants to run that far? Well, gosh, what person doesn't want when you have kids at home, what person doesn't want uninterrupted time with their friend just to talk through stuff?
Yeah.
So if I have to run to do that, then that's good.
Do you listen to headphones while you're running?
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm running by myself.
Wow.
I will do that. I can't. But I will say when I'm not running with headphones, in my own head, sometimes that's a scary place to be. But there's a lot of good. Let's take a run. So yeah, I'm trying to think. There's, I think people know, and maybe I think I am pretty. I like to share things about myself, but I am just based on growing up and in my background. There's a lot of trust that has to be put in there first.
Yeah.
Right. And some people, I love an extrovert. I love me an extrovert. Like they take all of that, and I love learning about them. And sometimes,
but they'll wear your out though too, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And I admire that they can share all that stuff, and I may not be able to do that right away. But I think the other thing is, as a leader, I learned a lot from leaders, and the basic thing that I learned is just to treat people the way you want to be treated, and that is what I think. It seems simple, but what makes it difficult is some leaders think you need to treat everyone the same, and that is usually that's kind of when you run into some problems, is because not everyone needs the same thing. And I love trying to figure out. I throw the strengths finder on my staff and try to figure out where our team is, and then just where they are and what fills them. Because in the end, I just want them to be happy because they'll do a great job. That's my job as a leader. It's like, how do I make you happy to come to work so you can do what I hired you to do. And if people are happy, that it's a simple thing, but for whatever reason, it's tough to pull off. But if people are happy, then this whole thing works a lot better. I want people to be happy at their job, and especially at the school district. I want people to know how much I appreciate them. I try to show up. Sometimes showing up doesn't seem like a lot, but I've been going to a lot of events because it's May. It's May and the end of the school year, June, and I've learned. I've done nothing. Like I get invited to these things. I've actually done nothing except show up. And it's just amazing how people appreciate that.
Because that's everything, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think that's the other thing for people to know. Sometimes your time is so meaningful to people.
Yeah. If somebody wants to support you and your campaign, how can they do that?
Oh, so my website is melissafortumwaterschools.com. I'm going to be doing a kickoff in July, on July 12th, but I'm going to be doorbelling, and I will have the schedule on the website for people who want to come doorbell. And doorbelling seems a little intimidating, but it is so fun to meet your neighbors. It is so fun to talk with people, and you can find agreement with people on education. People just want kids to have what they need. And there's always agreement on that. At the beginning, you said you wanted to hear about that civic education thing
Yeah. Well, that was on I had a bunch of stuff wrote down, but yeah, I'd love to hear about that. What's the deal with that?
So that's with 4-H. So when I was a kid, I was in 4-H. That's where I learned. I hated public speaking. My 4-H leader made me do public speaking every year, and so thankful for Mrs. Vosberg now for making me do that
I
because
was always sick on those days.
oh,
Sick.
yeah, exactly. So she'd make us do these public presentations. So I learned all these great life skills in 4-H. So that's another thing that I wanted to give back to was 4-H. And so there's a conference for high school students called Know Your Government. And so I write the curriculum for that. And we have a conference on mock trials, one on, the legislature. So advocating with the legislature, one on politics and the media, and one on elections. And
Wow.
my belief around this conference is if we give high school students the opportunity to participate and learn how it works, they're more likely to participate when they're adults. So, learning how elections work and they, work on a campaign, try to get, someone elected. So like maybe they, one, vote, and two, maybe if they see a candidate they really support, in the future that they would go work on their campaign because they've been through that. Or mock trials, we focus on them serving as a juror. And when they get that jury summons, they'll say, oh yeah, I've done I did something like this when I was a kid. This is not going to be a big deal. I'll just go and do my civic duty. So that's kind of the idea of it is, and also, you don't have to be a voter to testify in front of the legislature. You can be any age, and you can go in front of the legislature and tell them whether you agree or disagree with a bill they're passing. So trying to give students the opportunity to practice using their voice to advocate for something is one of them as well. And then the social media and politics is understanding bias in the media, and that there's bias, and just when you read something, you should do so with a careful, look and understand where it comes from.
That's super dope. Are y'all going to be talking to him about podcasting too?
I think that needs to be part of the media curriculum. Yeah. It's funny because we rotate through those every 4 years, and that social media and politics one. It used to be media and the politics, and it used to be back in the day like newspapers and TV. Like it's not that at all anymore, right? So I will probably add podcasting to the next round. That changes every 4 years based on what is new.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I mean, if you look at this last election, I feel like, and I was looking at some of the numbers, it was won because the presidential election because of the podcasting and because of the big podcast, Joe Rogan, all of these other podcasts. It was insane, and I saw it. And I remember just thinking like, oh my God, is anybody else seeing this? Like this is incredible. And now with podcasting, you see like maybe start paying attention when you're watching Netflix, you'll see at the bottom corner, they're not saying like, oh, this person's from this media outlet. And that's what gives them credibility. They'll say, oh, this person's from this podcast. And it's so incredible. People are,
that is interesting.
it is, I think, is freaking phenomenal. I think, and the reason that I think that is because it's giving the voice back to the people, and you're not having to rely on some of these big media freaking outlets to get your voice out there. So, yeah, I think that's super cool that you're considering doing that. Don't get me going off on that, but yeah,
you'll have to be a speaker. I'll ask you to be a speaker at the conference.
I would totally do it. If I was curious if someone, and we'll land this. This has been phenomenal, by the way. But if somebody that is listening to this and they have it in their heart to lead, they have it in their heart to lead, but for some reason they don't believe in themselves, they feel unsure, they feel discouraged, but they got that damn fire just burning in them. What would you suggest for them to do?
I think if it's in your heart, you have to trust it. Even if you think it could lead you to a place where you will like not be shunned, but like the school board, my fellow school board members are treated in a certain way, but the community has, embraced me. But I didn't do it for that. And I think being okay with yourself, you have to be right with yourself. Yeah. So even if you are the only one, like knowing that you did that for yourself and whoever it is that you're trying to defend or what you're doing, like that is enough. No one else has to agree with you because you have to live with yourself. I told you earlier, like those are the biggest regrets that I didn't follow when I made a decision that didn't follow my heart. Because like I can be wrong, if it's my heart, like, okay, that's fine. But if I knew it was wrong and I still did it for someone else, oh my gosh, like the damage that does to myself. And it is really hard to be out there by yourself.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you're going to be out there by yourself, more than likely someone will come up. They will come up and tell you you're not by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what's been happening around here. I knew I was going to be on my own, and the number of people who've come out to people who knew me, people who don't know me, they are taking the time to show that they support the work that I'm doing. And it also means, for someone who has it in their heart, what that also tells me is when I see other people who are going out and doing something that is scary, I take the time to thank them for it.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you keep that going? So maybe it's hard for you to do it right now, but recognizing that in someone else and giving them kudos for that, maybe that is a first step you can do. Is there's someone acting the way that I want to be able to act when I get to that point, and giving them support.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. I know that the viewers and the listeners have learned so much. I've learned so much sitting here listening to you. I feel like I'm ready to just go out there and lead just from this episode. I mean it. I'm not just saying that. This is so good. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. As much fun as I thought it would be. It was totally all your emails, be comfortable. And you totally make this whole thing, you make it really comfortable. And I listened to a bunch before and I wasn't scared because I think I can feel your interest, right? And that
you gotta make me cry.
Helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And the folks that are listening and viewing this show, please stay tuned. Reach out to me if I can support you. I'm at info@tonytaylorinspires.com. Don't forget to go check out Melissa Beard's website at
melissafortomaterschools.com.
Thank you for allowing me to travel with you on your journey. I want to say thank you for the things that you're doing, the things that you've done, and the things that you're gonna do, because I know that you're gonna do something truly amazing. Remember, I'm here to stand by you as you chase your dreams, lead with greatness, and continue to make a difference. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. I'll see you next time on Leaders Lead the Podcast. Peace.